Two players linked, one player on the way out. It's the squad review. Who stays? Who goes? Hello again, friends, and you are my friends, and welcome to Who Stays, Who Goes? Goalkeepers and defenders. Two players linked, one player on the way out. Lots to get through. I'm joined by Matt, and as always, the live chat's with us as well. So welcome one, welcome all. Do get active. Leave your opinions, your thoughts, your questions. But let's start with a player leaving. It's the shortest, longest running saga in football, Liam Delap. I've heard it described as the most expensive loan of the season. I'm not quite sure I see it that way. But how Liam Delap edging closer to Chelsea, Matt? What are your thoughts on that one?
Well, the Chelsea fans don't seem too happy. Looking at some of the social media comments, I don't know what they're all expecting. But yeah, I mean, it's come to it, hasn't it? As soon as we knew that there was going to be a relegation clause in the contract, we knew as soon as we finished against West Ham, you'd start seeing this kind of bidding war for him. And it seems that Chelsea have sprinted out ahead of everyone else. I'm pretty certain Man United was probably top of his list for the reasons you gave at the weekend, which was a chance to get back to the Northwest, I think, is what he favoured, but they're not going to be able to offer him what he wants from his career, which is to play in the Champions League. And Chelsea obviously fresh out of winning the Conference League this week with the win over Betis, and then going into the Champions League for next season. And then you take into account Cole Palmer's there, who he knows from the Man City Academy, and Maresca was the coach there. Winterlap was a Man City player. So it all kind of adds up, and it would seem to be a good move for him now. Whether or not the Chelsea fans warm to him eventually, I mean, if he has a season like he did for us, certainly the first half of the season, they'll love him, won't they? But again, you've got to remember he's only young though, isn't he? I mean, 21, 22. Some of these bigger club fans, they don't always have the patience with the younger players, do they? And suddenly you just find yourself on the bench. So we'll have to wait and see.
Tommy K, our resident Nottingham Forest fan, says he's off to get splinters on his backside.
Well, the chance you take.
Positive. Tommy's feeling positive this evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in, Tommy. Hope you're well, my friend. But more importantly, as I said on my little short video this week, more importantly for Town fans, is we've got some players being linked with us. One of which is almost a part of that Liam Delap possible transfer to Chelsea. With Town interested in Mark Guiu. Appreciate that, Mark Guiu. Chelsea striker. Now, I admitted on my short, I'm not going to sit here and try and Billy Ball you and tell you I know everything about this player, but his stats, Matt, they did excite me. I will be honest. He's got
the Conference League stats, aren't they? He's only really featured in that, so he's not playing against the cream of Europe. But go for it. Let's hear these stats. Let's hear them.
Appearances 7, right? So this is the Conference League, as you say. 7 appearances, 4 starts, 6 goals. Hello. I'll have some of that, right?
I saw him score 3 of those because I watched Chelsea versus Shamrock Rovers in that competition around November, December, and he played in that game. And he was. I mean, look, it's Shamrock Rovers, right? I mean, the Irish League is well below Premier League level, isn't it? And as Sam rightly says, there, Guiu's come out of the Banter Academy, La Masia he was in, but I was impressed with him. He scored a first half hat trick. I think there was a couple of headers he'd scored, and he rounded the keeper on one. Think of it. He's built like George Hurst, but he's slightly quicker. I think he reads the game really well. He drops deep really well. So there you got that link-up play. He's not got the physicality of a Delap, but he gets himself involved just without kind of that battering ram attitude that Delap's got. But he's certainly got a really good eye for goal. He's more of a technical player than Hurst and Delap, I think, from what I saw. But if the Athletic are to be believed, Martin, he still needs some convincing to come to drop down to the Championship with Kieran. So
I admitted that from my short, and I admitted that from this piece here, just because it doesn't. I don't want to surround myself with negatives, because I'm pretty sure once he hears the vision and gets the oxygen, he'll be buying into the project, Matt. Right? So
once he gets that oxygen, you're saying he's young as well, though. Let's not forget. I think he's only 19. 19. So I mean, we often, like back in the League One days, used to lament, didn't we, that our youngsters would go on loan to Colchester. At least he's got something about him to move from Barcelona to another country as a teenager, and bide his time at Chelsea and just play in the Conference League. I think he had 2 or 3 maybe appearances in the Premier League off the bench or whatever. So let's hope he takes another leap of faith and decides to come to Portman Road. And as Colin said to me yesterday, could be another Pablo Cunyago all over again. Fingers crossed.
He could. But I do tend to lean in with what Tommy said here in the chat. Tommy, that's 2 good comments in a row, my friend. You're on fire. Can you go for a third? He goes, would take him, but not as a starter. I do sort of lean into that. Now, as much as the stats, excite me, Matt. And let's be honest,
yeah,
many goals and is that few appearances. That's always going to get your ears up, standing up, and you're always going to be looking. Yeah. But he is a project. He is 19. I say a project. He's the next Barcelona Academy. I mean, there's projects and there's projects, right? It's no Aaron Dillon. But
yeah,
you get where I'm going with this. I wouldn't quite hang my hat on he's my number one striker. So as part of a mix, Hurst, Gu, and one other.
Al Hamidi?
No.
One other?
No. I like it. But not perhaps to say, right, Delap's gone. This is our de facto one that's going to compete with Hurst.
Yeah, and I don't think that's. I mean, we've lent heavily on a young lad this season with no Premier League experience in Delap, haven't we? And he played too many games really, which is why I think his 2025 was a bit flat because I think he was burnt out and there was too much pressure on keeping us in the division on his shoulders. So then you look at that context and think you can't put all that pressure to get promoted on a 19, 20-year-old coming out of Spain, dropping down into the Championship for the first time, a much more physical division than what he's used to playing in. So, yeah, I'd probably agree with you on that one. I mean, Hurst, Guillou maybe, and one other. We'll have to wait and see. But I hope he does come. I think he'll be good for Ipswich. I think he'll be really good.
Yeah, I think it's a really exciting prospect. He's obviously got some big ability about him. Barca Academy, gone to Chelsea. Got the goals in the. I know people go, oh, it's only the Conference League, blah blah blah. But it's still a European competition. You've still got to play the games you're playing in. You've still got to perform well. And those stats to me tell me that he was probably playing at a level that he was just a cut above
the opposition. That's what I was thinking when he played against Shamrock. Really, yeah. I mean, if we can be the beneficiaries of that, then happy days. Fingers crossed. Let's see if it happens first.
Yeah, another link obviously is Mbama from Man City. Again, falls in the same sphere for me as not necessarily a striker. I'm going, he's my number one. But if you can't get the lad from Chelsea, this is a good sort of second alternative to throw into that mix. He hasn't got, unlike the Chelsea player, he hasn't got the stats you can get excited about necessarily. No. But we do know he's got the ability. Only move. Now, this is a bit of a different one, right? Because I've seen it's obviously for a more permanent transfer with Man City wanting 10 million. 10 million.
That's lumpy.
Well, considering last year, it was only a year or two ago, they obtained his services for
West Ham, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2 million, 3 million.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
that's some return in it. That is some investment. If that was your pension pot, Matt, you'd be feet up in the Bahamas right now.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, they're going to do all right after the DAP deal as well, aren't they?
This is it. Yeah.
And that keeps every time I read an article on this, it keeps the percentage that you go into them keeps increasing.
It's true.
Won't be getting any dough out of it at this rate. I don't know too much about how do you say it again? Mubama. I know.
You're asking me.
Yeah, exactly. I've done this show long enough. Not to be
We're in trouble.
Pronunciations. Yeah, we are. I think he won the Youth Cup with West Ham or got some honours with the West Ham Youth set up. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what prompted Manchester City to get him in. And of course, they like to stockpile young English players. I mean, we saw that with Ipswich with Ben Knight, didn't they? Mm-hmm. He's kind of disappeared off the radar, but you roll the dice, I suppose, when you get an opportunity to go there, don't you? So I think he's got good pedigree. We'll have to wait and see. But I mean, look, that's the kind of project that McKenna and Martin Pert, not Lee Grant anymore. We'll get into that in a second, I guess.
Yeah.
He's the kind of young project that they would probably like to be able to shape, mould, like they've done with Delap, really. Because, what did he get in the Championship with Hull? 8, 9 goals? Didn't look anything like the play that we saw in the Premier League last season for us. So if they can cast that spell on him, happy days. Go into it with an open mind, I would say.
This is it. And I've just, as you were talking there, quickly grabbed up an article on TWTD in regards to this link. And it's last August, Man City paid £2 million in training compensation for him. So 2 million to 10 million, if it was to go through for 10, is some turnaround. He's 6 foot tall. He's made 1 Premier League sub appearance against Town at Portman Road, which I do not remember.
The 6-0. Yeah, we'll gloss over that. Oh, most people had gone by that point, Martin.
That's true. Yeah, fan gate. And he's been capped England level of under 15, 16, 18, 19, and under 20 levels. So
nice. Good.
Yeah, a prospect really, but a lot of
highly
money.
Thought of. highly thought of on the international development scene. Then that's really good.
Yeah. This is it. And of course, you mentioned a coaching departure there. It's not the coaching departure necessarily the person sat in this chair would have opted for first. But it has happened. Grant to Huddersfield, Matt.
Yeah, I was surprised by that, really. But I mean, good luck to him, because McKenna decided to leave Man United's dugout, didn't need to come to us, and Lee Grant's taken the same leap of faith. So good luck to him. Kind of how integral he is to the back staff at Town, because he come in for the championship season, didn't he? He come in after we got promoted from League One. He come in for the champ. I mean, I always thought it was weird, didn't I? That you've got this ex-goalkeeper who was not the goalkeeping coach. So we'll have to wait and see how integral he is, and Huddersfield obviously have seen something in him that suggests that he can cut it in League One.
Yeah.
So now he needs replacing. I'm pretty certain you're going to say not with Mark Hudson.
Wow, would I say that? Yes, I would.
Yeah. So I hope Lee does really well with Huddersfield. It's a good old-fashioned club like Town. Hope he does really well. They've given him an opportunity. It's fantastic for him. I hope Ipswich can get a replacement in that can help us spearhead the promotion campaign, because that's what all hands to the pump are going to be. And maybe someone who can influence set pieces a little bit more than what we've just seen over the last 9-10 months.
Well, this is it. And if you're brand new, this is your first show, obviously the joke is I'm not a fan, haven't been all season of our set pieces, and the set piece coach is Mark Hudson, who Matt refers to there, and that's who I probably would have liked. But maybe now with Lee Grant going, that Mark Hudson doesn't necessarily become set piece coach in everything he does. It's set piece coach in something else, because obviously it seems a little bit indulgent being a championship side having a dedicated set piece coach. Perhaps I don't know if that's the thing these days in terms of championship football clubs. In the Premier League you can get these these dedicated necessarily. Whether you think it has success or not,
they can do it for one season, can't they, when we get back to the Premier League, before we get back there? Don't be entitled, it's just Town fans.
This is it. It's interesting. I think it's obviously the wider football landscape. I mean, look at West Brom and Ryan Mason there being spoken to, a favourite to be the West Brom manager. Obviously, very little to no managerial experience. I actually think for the first time in a long time, Ipswich Town were the trendsetters.
Yeah, I agree.
They went for the manager that perhaps had been the number 2 or a coach or hadn't really been heard of, wasn't on the radar, wasn't a retread, wasn't coming with years of experience, but also years of failure. And people have seen that success, and I think rightfully so, because it is a copycat league, football. They're all trying to emulate that. You've got Lee Grant, no managerial experience, Huddersfield, you've got Ryan Mason going to West Brom. All good coaches in their own right, all good coaches in their own merit. But I think for the first time in a long time, Matt, we were the trendsetters. Yeah,
I agree with you. And Norwich have been trying to replicate it since they got Thorpe in, and then they got rid of him, and now Manning's going to go in there. Yep. And Manning sort of came through at the same time as McKenna, didn't he, when he was with MK Dons, and was really unlucky not to get them promoted. And then he had his team sold away from him, and they got relegated, didn't they? And he got sacked. So he was unlucky there. But I totally agree with you. I mean, Mason was caretaker boss at Spurs for a spell, wasn't he? And didn't he manage them in that League Cup final they got to, I think I'm right in saying that. But yeah, traditionally, what was a player? It's Tottenham, wasn't he? And then has just been part of their academy and development team set up. So I'm not sure Chris Hall's completely sold on that appointment, if it happens.
Is he not? Oh,
talking to him. But listen, the proof's in the pudding, isn't it? We didn't know who Kieran McKenna was. We just knew him as this young-looking lad sat next to Solskjaer in a Man United dugout, giving us back-to-back promotion. So you never know what's around the corner, do you?
Yeah, this is it. Most people, obviously knew of McKenna as being the man that survived the managerial changes at Man United. He was the ever-present, wasn't he? Who was in the dugout next to him as the number 1.
It speaks volumes, that, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah. It truly does. Yeah, you're absolutely right. But good luck to Lee Grant. There's so many transfer rumours. I had Mark Grant in my head, and that's why I called him Grant earlier on. I was thinking, I'm sure it's Lee Grant, but what if it's Mark Grant? Because obviously Mark, we just talked about Mark Gue there. So yeah, good luck to Lee Grant. All the best. We'll wait to see what happens in terms of any coach changes. But we're going to turn the page and we're going to look at goalkeepers and defenders. If you want to do this at home, all we're simply doing is going to the ITFC website and we're going on goalkeepers. and we're going to discuss each one, stay, go, what our thoughts are in terms of if they are going to stay, are they around the team, or being loaned out, and defenders. And then next time we're going to do midfielders and strikers. But before we do, don't forget we are partnered with the East Anglian Air Ambulance. If you want to help save lives, of course you do, and have the chance to win £1,000 every week, again, of course you do, play the East Anglian Air Ambulance Lottery. Playing for just £1 each week, you're helping to get their yellow helicopters flying. The East Anglian Air Ambulance creates 18 winners every week, with prizes ranging from £50 to £1,000. Over 18s only. Teens fees apply. Link in our description. Please, as I always say, whatever you do, gamble responsibly. Right, let's turn a page. Let's have a look. Goalkeepers. First on that one. It's not good. He's not first on putting him first. He's literally first on the webpage, Matt. It is Mr. Muric himself. What are you doing in regards to Muric?
I feel sorry for Muric, really, because, after Manchester City away with the errors, everyone forgets he made a very good save in that game from Haaland. Remember the head that Haaland has in the second half? Made a really good save.
That people don't remember.
Yeah. And as we mentioned the other week or the week before, we forget about the man of the match performance against Brighton, because what overshadows everything? The errors for goals, of which he was topping the Premier League list of 5, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And I think he's still top 10. He hadn't even played since December or whatever it was, or maybe just one appearance, whatever it was in the cup. Draw a line under Muric. It didn't work out. McKenna, Ashton, and co. They've got to just sort of be honest and say that was a mistake. It was a transfer that didn't work, and I think it's best if we just write him off and he can go off and forever his career somewhere else. Fresh start for all parties, the club and the player. I think would be the best solution for all.
That's a lot of money to write off, though, isn't it? It's a lot of.
It is.
It's a big wedge of transfer cash that you've written off after a year.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm sure you could get a fee for him, but you're not going to get anywhere near the 8 to 10 million, whatever we spent on him, which felt a lot at the time. When we talk about thing, I saw Colin put it in there when he talk about trust the process. It's those kind of deals that puts a question mark against everything, because they made that mistake early on in the season, and look, it never started well for him, did it? I mean, as it transpires, he's injured. He's injured for the Liverpool game. And as we get towards the end of the season, we find out he had some court issues around the car and everything. Sometimes you don't help yourself, do you? But I just think it's not worked out for anybody. The scouting that got him here in the first place, shouldn't have been trusted. And his performances weren't good enough for us. And just go off and further your career, and good luck to him, is what I say.
Yeah, that's fair. And I've obviously said my thoughts on Muric on actually Sunday's show, because it was a topic that came up, and I stick by those. I think a loan spell, I wouldn't sell him necessarily. A loan spell is the way I would go. This is a championship goalkeeper team of the year not so long ago. There's ability there. There's good ability there. It hasn't gone well for him. I would, change the scenery, new faces, come back in the year's time, refreshed, and see where we're at. Because if anything, you aren't going to lose anything doing that, in the sense of he's probably worth not a lot right now, whereas in a year's time, with a really good season under his belt, he'll be worth more. Whether that's the money you pay back for him or not is irrelevant. It could be half of it, but still he'd be worth more than he is today. He's not worth that much in today's, in terms of transfer. I would guess so. You watch some team come along and slam down £5 million on him and say, show me, what do I know? But I just, a loan spell, it keeps all the options on the table, keeps all relevant options open, and then you see where you are, because you're not going to lose anything doing that, for me.
If you were playing your Football Manager right now, you'd be a loan with an option to buy, maybe. I mean, he's still highly thought of in Kosovo already. He still gets in their side. Their international side. I mean, you go into the continent and there might be people that have played with him or coached with him before and think, he's had a bit of a rough time at town. We can bring him into our domestic league, whatever that might be. I don't know, in France or Holland or wherever it might be, and see if they can do something. But yeah, Ipswich will certainly make a loss on that. I don't want to sort of, end the season with sort of bashing Muric. If you look at some of his stats, like high claims, which I know you've said before, he's actually one of the league leaders in that. So he's actually very commanding. Well, he's a huge guy, isn't he? 6'6", 6'7". So I mean, he's a big unit, so he can command his box. But I don't know, for whatever reason, maybe he didn't want to, even though he's got good feet, perhaps he just wasn't comfortable playing out from the back, and or it panicked him, or whatever, or he didn't trust the defence or the midfield in front of him, maybe.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, it meant that he made mistakes in goal, sadly for him.
Most of the chat are suggesting that Muric is one of the players we lose, which is not a surprise. Moving on, we've got Kieran Slicker up next. Simon says Slicker out on loan. Chris Pataka says Muric out, Walton out, Slicker out on loan, Palmer 1 or 2. Kieran Slicker, where are you thinking in terms of this? Is it a loan spell? Is it time he stepped up to be number 2? Is it time, you perhaps, if he's not going to be a number 2, you addressed it and got some value from it in terms of a transfer fee? What about Kieran Slicker?
Slicker, as I said the other way, I've always liked him. I think he's only young, and he's 22. He doesn't seem the tallest keeper in the world, particularly. Who am I to judge at 5'5"? But I've always kind of, when he's come in beating the League Cup or something, or in friendlies pre-season, I've always thought he's obviously got good feet because he can't come out of Manchester City. Again, he looks like he can command his area, and he looks like he was a good communicator. Same as with Muric. Even though Muric was throwing in these, not good enough performances for us, he was still getting picked internationally. Slicker don't play any football for us, still getting picked internationally for Scotland. So I think now is the time, really, at 22, that we probably want him to become our number 2, I think. And, he's done a season in the Premier League as the 3rd choice keeper. If not, as we said before, if not now, when? So, I mean, give him the opportunity to step up to be the number 2 is what I'm thinking. I don't really see the value in him going out on loan when you're being picked for Scotland. All right, not one of the greatest of world football nations currently, but he's getting in there. So he's obviously got some talent that they like at an international level. So let's see that replicated in the town squad, I think.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. 22, still young for a goalkeeper, but he's not a teenager. He's not a young lad out of the academy. I think 22 is. I agree. Yeah, you need to be looking now to be number 2, particularly at your parent club. Or you could go out on loan, but the only issue you've got, not an issue as such, but you've got Christian Walton, obviously, who will come to next. He still has a year left to run on his contract at town. So as things stand, it would be Walton as number 2, Slicker as number 3. So in that case, Slicker would need a loan. But what about Christian Walton? He's got a year left. Is he somebody you're looking to keep around? Is he somebody you're looking now to release and go and get, not release in the sense of free transfer, but release to go and speak to clubs and try and become a first-team goalkeeper? Where are you on Christian Walton?
Yeah, I feel sorry for Christian Walton, really, because he really should have played that championship season. We get promoted. And he was really unlucky with that sort of sole of the foot injury he got, didn't he? And it kept him out.
Placenta. Is it no?
You're not going to attempt to pronounce it, are you?
No, I'm going to try. I was going to try. That was stupid.
We know what you're talking about. Yeah, it begins with P, doesn't it? Plantia or something. So there'll be a doctor in the comments. They'll tell us. Where's the doc when we need him? Doc King. I feel sorry for him. And of course, then he kind of lost his way after that because he couldn't budge Haladki out the side. We get promoted. Muric comes in. Christian gets a little go. Didn't really cover himself in glory particularly. But then it was difficult coming into that situation when you're struggling down the bottom of the table. In comes Alex Palmer. So I think for Walton, who seems to have spent the majority of his career either going out on loan when he was at Brighton or being a number 1 in League One with us, I think it's probably time for him, with a year to go, take a nominal fee and let him go and be a number 1 somewhere.
Agreed.
Be at bottom end of the championship with I don't know, someone like a Stoke or someone who's going to compete for the title in League One. But go and play some games. Like you say, he's 29. He's only really had 1 full season being a number 1, hasn't he? Where he's actually with his club, actually not on loan. Don't put some roots down and have 3, 4, 5, 6 years as a number 1 keeper somewhere is what I'm thinking for him.
Yeah, exclusive. Honest love Walton, but would be sad for him to go, but understand it. We've got Lee who says, to be fair, they've all been piss poor, and that includes McKenna. Couldn't give a toss who goes pathetic season. Lee, keep smiling. That is a brilliant comment. Absolutely brilliant. I probably could have read that a bit more, moody,
You've just summed up the season. Oh, Sharon's put the plantar fasciitis.
Yeah.
Latin, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm with Sam. You've either got to offer Christian Walton a 1-year deal or sell him this summer. Yes. Otherwise, he goes for a free. So I'd be looking to get some Yeah, get a transfer fee for him. Let him go and be a first choice goalkeeper somewhere. Thank you for the service. Thanks for the memories and all the best,
Yeah.
Christian. And then you
He didn't
move.
cost the world either, did he? When we bought him from Brighton, it was only like 100 grand or something daft, wasn't it? Maybe not even that.
Yeah, exactly. So he's done well for us. And as you say, a victim of obviously circumstance because he got injured, and then Haladki came in and we did well. We started great. You don't want to change that winning combination, and then we didn't stop winning. So he never really got himself back into the lineup. Good guy, but yeah, time to get some money back for him, I think. And then you move Slicker up to number 2, and then of course Alex Palmer, the last of the goalkeepers, he's a number 1, right?
Yeah, nailed on. As long as no one tries to buy him. I mean, I still worry that Leeds will be looking for a keeper. That I can never say his name right. Meslier. Leeds number 1. Meslier. I don't think the Leeds fan base are too happy with him. He makes a lot of errors, doesn't he? So the same kind of context we had with Muric, I suppose. And I think Palmer has done very well. All right, he didn't keep a clean sheet, did he, in his time? But I mean, and he spelled from January through to the end of the season with us. But I mean, didn't have the greatest of defences in front of him either, did he? So I do worry that someone might come in there because I think he did well, Palmer. I thought that was a good, as you called it, the sticking plaster over the problem that was Muric, really. I think they did well there. It was just too late, wasn't it? It was just too late to come in, really.
It was, yeah. Obviously, he's proven it in the Championship level. Agree with that. Right. I mean, if you're going to be really greedy, I'd want a goalkeeper, which we'll get to in our transfer shows over the course of the summer. But if I was being really greedy, I'd say, yeah, Palmer number 2, a new number 1. Brilliant. But that's greedy. Palmer's done well.
Palmer's coming here to be number 2, is he? When he's been number 1 in the Championship. Colin's saying, so Kelleher from Liverpool is
not that name again. We had that all last summer on this platform in regards to why don't we sign him?
Colchester, doesn't he? His brother plays outfield for Colchester. I can never say either of their Christian names. They're Gaelic names, aren't they? Those Irish names. I don't know how you say it. But he's good. He's a good keeper. We did mention him, didn't we? When we were doing the transfer shows last summer. But oh well. Perhaps we should have gone with him, not Muric, but Harry hindsight, isn't it?
Dominic Palmer isn't going anywhere. Why can't he stay number 1? Oh, he can stay number 1. Yeah, he will be number 1. He's been really good since he came in, Dom. I'm just being greedy. I'm being a fan. I'm being like, if we can go and get
Might stockpiling.
Yeah, absolutely. You can never have too. Look, this is proof. You never have too many good goalkeepers, right?
Exactly. Well, this was the issue. See,
this is the issue.
One we chose wasn't good enough.
Yeah, and in November and December we had no good goalkeepers. But no, he's absolutely been fantastic since he came in. I'm not even going to argue that. Dominic has become a new member. Welcome back, Dom. We appreciate you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Right, defenders, Leif Davis. I'm going to keep Leif Davis all day long. It's not a question. The only question is if he goes because someone's come to buy him. But if outside of that, I'm keeping Leif Davis, the assist king. Move on.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, his stats are fantastic in the Premier League. I know people have been criticising his defence, and probably rightly so a little bit. But again, I'm just looking at some of his stats here, and chances created in the Premier League: 61, successful crosses, 43, expected assists, 4.75. I think he had a very good. I think he had a good season in a team that was defensively not brilliant.
Agreed.
But of course, Leaf's strength really is in attack, isn't it? Not in defence. And he did cost us some goals. Unfortunately, I mean, look, bloody hell, chances created, 61. If we'd been able to convert at least half of them, he'd have been in the England team, right? So, I mean, it's just unfortunate. But at least we get, every club is a selling club, like I keep saying. Even Man United sold Ronaldo to Real Madrid. At least we get a crazy bid for him. Then off he goes because he only cost us, $1.5 million. But yeah, look what he did. Look what he did in the Championship last time around. He's so integral to how we play. I think it would take a lot for McKenna to actually agree to sell him, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dom was saying, is Leif a defender though? Really? And I just think, with a manager that can tactically protect him, with better players around him, more intelligent players around him in terms of where to be when protecting him. We saw it in the Championship, when Massimo, for example, was levels above reading the game. He could really protect the space that Leif would leave because he could read the game and read where Leif was going to be and where he needed to be. And obviously at the elite level, we didn't quite have that this year in the midfield, and it left Leif really exposed. Is he the greatest defender? No. Is he a modern fullback? Yes. Has he got one thing every manager probably craves these days, and that is the ability to go forward?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's proved it with those stats you've just read there. You know, I'm on SofaScore now, 1.8 key passes a game, 12 big chances created. You know, they're stats that, you know, because goals win games, games win goals win points, points win games, you know, and games win prizes. And manager's going to be really excited about that. But as George says, how much does it take for us to accept the bid for Leaf? He says 20 to 25 million. I'm probably with George there, in all honesty.
I would say probably, I would say upwards of 15 to 20. I would say. I think we overestimate him a little bit. But then who's in the market for a left back at the moment? Probably Bournemouth, with that Kirkhead's going to Liverpool is the rumour, or that's about to happen, or has happened. So they'll be looking at them stats that we're looking at and thinking, you know, can he replicate that for us? Because they're a very attacking-minded side, aren't they, under Ariola, Bournemouth? But the question mark there is the defensive frailty that he's got, which would expose them at the back. So, I mean, that's the dynamic, isn't it, that they would take. But certainly going forward, yeah, tremendous. And he scored a really good goal against Leicester, didn't he? That volley. Great goal, yeah. And if he does stay with us, then it would be great experience for him going down into a lesser division, not having to go up against right wingers that play for their countries and in the Champions League every other week. Again, it'll be the cream of the crop and he'll rise to the top for us, I would have thought.
Check you out. That's a song, isn't it?
Yeah. Is it? I don't know.
Right to the top.
Yeah.
Mike Baker, Davis needs to work on his. I don't know who Davis is. Davis needs to work on his defensive side of the game. Great going forward. A little suspect on defensive duties. Dom has gifted 5 Talking Town memberships. Dom, legend. Thank you very much. If you're a lucky recipient of Dom's amazing, not appreciation. Help me think of the word. Amazing generosity. There we go. Generosity. Then you can get access to our Discord now. You come across for banter, insights. I mean, you know, bitching occasionally as well. So if you like drama, there's drama this week. Believe me, there's drama this week. We get it all to our Discord. Come across and join us. $4.99.
Transfer chat. Get some good little nuggets in there. So yeah, come on over.
I just like the drama, to be fair. Like,
you moderate the drama, don't you? You're the umpire, the referee.
Like while I'm moderating it, I'm just having a popcorn. Like, this is brilliant. This is brilliant. But no,
it can be as opinionated as this show sometimes.
It can be, yeah. No, in all seriousness, $4.99, cancel at any point. You get access to the Discord and you get a whole range of chat in there. And we're improving it. So come across and you can tell us what we need to improve without even being there before we improve it. Anyway, on back to where we were going to be. And cheers, Dom. We appreciate it. Luke Wolfenden, what are you doing about Wolfie? Contracted till 2027. What's your thoughts around the Wolf? For me, he stays. It's a no-brainer. It's a stay. There's no need.
Yeah, I think he probably stays as well. I mean, his stats weren't great in the Premier League, but I don't think he did too badly either. Look, no one in our defence covered themselves in glory. How many goals did we let in? 86 was it? Eventually,
I lost count at 10.
Yeah, Wolfie's proved it. He can do it. He can do it at Championship level, can't he? And I think we keep him. We'll keep him around. Absolutely. Whether or not he's a starter, it depends on O'Shea, doesn't it? Whether or not he's going to be, and someone tries to buy O'Shea, whether or not he's going to be a starter, I don't know. Whether or not he wants that himself for his career. Again, you're getting into Christian Moulton territory here. Do you want to sit on the bench in the Championship? Or do you want to go off and be a mainstay somewhere else? I mean, he's done it before. He went on loan to Swindon, didn't he? When he was coming through the ranks. And I seem to recall he kept Swindon's captain out of the team by the end of that season. So, but yeah, Ipswich Academy didn't really let us down last season when he came in. I thought he did very well in that game against Aston Villa, which was obviously Palmer's standout game when he on his league debut when we were down to 10. And he really helped marshal that defence to get us that point, didn't he? So yeah, he's someone you need around for the Championship campaign, I would have thought, unless someone comes in and sees him as a starter or a potential. He's captain the club now, isn't he? Maybe they'll see him as a potential captain somewhere else. I don't know.
I mean, we're kind of exactly where you probably would have, you know, many years ago, well, a couple of years ago when he was being linked with Palace. I think we're probably where you would have thought Wolfie's career would be. You know, bottom half Premier League defender, top, not top half Championship, but top 6, top 4 side Championship, and we're kind of in that now. We're hopefully now in that where we are the bottom half Premier League, or we're the top 4 Championship side, and that's kind of where you feel, you know, currently certainly Wolfie's ceiling is, in terms of where he needs to be with his career. And
I agree.
The only stopping point is the playing time, because obviously he'll want to play every minute of every game. Of course he will. But you have got O'Shea and Greaves, so I'm keeping both of those, by the way. And yeah, it would still be the case of, the occasional game, or when it's funny, isn't it? Actually, I'm about to say when McKenna likes to change it, but the moment we were relegated, and you can say injuries played a part, but like McKenna just sort of lost his selection.
Bingo. He's past caring. I will just have the team that played last week. Save me a job.
Strange that, isn't it? Like the moment the moment relegated, he sort of chucked the lottery, the lottery selector in the bin and just said, right, same 11 every week.
He was rivaling Guardiola for changes, wasn't he?
Yeah,
at opposite ends of the table. I mean, Wolfie did get linked, didn't he, to Miami when we said on here, if you've got an opportunity to go and play with Messi, go and take it. So, I mean, you never know what other curveball option might come out. Maybe Inter Miami will come back in for him if that really was a legit link. Do you know what I mean? Got to do what, how old is he now, Martin? What is he? Late 20s, is he?
I can tell you. But that's an interesting link, because if they're paying me comparably to what I'm earning with Ipswich or whoever may also be interested, that's a really big learning life experience, isn't it? Moving to Miami, that lifestyle.
Tommy Smith did it, didn't he? I mean, he was all gutted when he left, and then they brought in, what was it, Cameron Carter-Vickers, didn't they, from Tottenham, to take his place when Tommy left. Well, he's still doing things for, as Colin will tell you, for Celtic, doing good things there for them. So he's had a good career. But yeah, I mean, those kind of opportunities to move to the MLS or whatever, or the States, or a league overseas, don't come around very often, do they? Certainly to go and play with a legend like Messi, do you know what I mean? Into Miami, if that was a legit link. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, he's got to do what's good for his career now. I think at 26, he ain't got, I mean, still a youngish player, but, the clock is ticking and you don't want to be spending time on the bench.
And it's now no longer seen as something you do at the end of your career either, is it?
No.
A move, like we've seen other players move abroad from the Championship. We've seen obviously other leagues as well, but it's now particularly moving to the MLS. It's not something necessarily that's now viewed as something you do for that last contract or in the twilight of your career. It's now very much just like any other league in the world. It's like being linked with Serie A or the Bundesliga. It's good. And I if you were saying to me, Martin, I'm going to pay you the same, come across to Miami, I'd be all over that.
Yeah, exactly. And they've got Apple TV as the exclusive broadcaster, isn't it? So that obviously raises the appeal and the money that's being put into it. Let's wait and see. As Ipswich fans, we'd like him to stay, but as Luke Wolfenden will do what's good for him.
Agreed. All right, so I'm keeping, obviously, because that's sound, I'm keeping Greaves and O'Shea. That's not a question. I think Greaves particularly was coming on week in as the season was closing. I thought every week he was getting better and stronger. I think the spell at left back really helped him. Actually, funnily enough, I think it got his feet under him. To be honest with you. And when he was moved back into the centre, we were seeing, like last game of the season, we're seeing Jacob Greaves coming out of defence with the ball. We're seeing Jacob Greaves have some movement in terms of running into midfield and being available for passes, and seeing the player we all thought we were going to be.
Going
to be getting. So that goes without saying. But the other question marks of the back four are Cameron Burgess, out of contract. Cameron Burgess. It's a thank you ever so much. I love you, Cameron, but a no from me. What about you?
See, now I'm disagreeing with you on this one. So he's 29, isn't he? Now you've got to think he probably is, going on what we've just said, he would probably be back up to Greaves, but we do know that Kieran, certainly in the Premier League, liked to make them interchangeable, didn't he? I thought Greaves had, for someone who wasn't a Burgess fan, even going back into the League One days, I remember having a bit of a meltdown over his defending against Oxford and Wickham. I thought he played really well in the Premier League. And like I've said before, had he carried on from that stint, I think it was October onwards, and beyond that Palace game when Greaves was brought back, he could easily been putting in more man of the match performances and been in the running for Player of the Year, of course, which O'Shea gets as Player of the Year, didn't he? And Delap got the fans one. But I thought Burgess done really well. I certainly think Bournemouth, even though we end up losing the game, I thought that was as close to a 10 out of 10 performance as you can get from a defender in that game. I thought he was immense in that game. Just goes to show, doesn't it? Mindset. I mean, he joined us almost sort of bordering on journeyman territory playing for like Accrington Stanley and the like. Salford, I think he'd been at, maybe Oldham. So he's doing a run of Northwest clubs. Paul Cook brings him in, and who would have thought he'd play in the Premier League, playing for Australia in tournaments? It's a fair play to him. So, I mean, that's the kind of mindset of a player you want actually to have around and be a leader in the dressing room next season. But again, is he going to be content maybe being the second defender behind Greaves? He probably won't be, given all the things I've just said. And he can probably go on and be a really instrumental defender for someone else. But you don't want him to go to another championship club, because I think he could be doing that job for us. Do you know what I mean? But
he could be going to La Liga, abroad, other divisions abroad. You got mostly the chat's in favour of keeping Cam Burgess. Trevor says, I'd love Burgess to stay. Looks like he's going. Sharon says, Burgess a mince in the air. Colin, Burgess quality, been a great servant for the club. Totally agree with that, Colin. Dominic Dean, keep Burgess and Axel. Burgess is still a rock. Whereas Craig says, Burgess can go for me. We need better now. I do not argue with what you've just told me there in regards to Cameron Burgess. Absolutely. Yeah. If there was a category for the player that's most surprised you, he would probably win it. Because all the things you've just said there are completely true. My only issue is the timing of him coming out of contract, and I've mentioned this before.
Yeah, you have. Yeah,
taking a more protracted view of our transfer windows. If all things go the way we want them to go this summer, next summer, am I going to be wanting to buy a centre half? Possibly. To probably, and in that case, one will have to move on. Now, if I've just signed Cam Burgess to what he may want, a 2-year deal, a 3-year deal, you've got a player there with still some time on his contract. You could potentially move him on for a fee. Okay, yeah, no, fair enough. I can see that if there's a market for him. But equally, he will want to play football, and he will look at the situation. He will look at the game time. He'll look at who's in front of him, and he may say, "I want to go and be a first choice." But yeah, I just look at it and I just look at it and thinking, I can't really offer him.
I get that. Yeah, no, I get that. I get that thinking as well. I mean, look, he got linked to Girona, didn't he, in the Liga? They just stayed up by a point or 2 points, I think, in the end. So if he was to go there, he'd be playing back in the top flight against your Barcelona and Real Madrids and all those top clubs and players. So I certainly wouldn't begrudge him that move either. So let's wait and see.
If it take a year with an option, I'd snap his hand off tomorrow. I'd say, yes, please sign it. Sign it. I'll get the pen now, because that's great. Because obviously, if you don't go up, you've still got a quality player that you can have an option for. If you do go up, you can then assess the options. Maybe you extend it. But he's 29, be obviously 30 next year. That's normally how birthdays work. I just don't know.
He's got a bit of a Mowbray vibe to him. Do you know what I mean? He's the kind of player you want in the trenches with you. As I used to say, Go Palace, do say that about Mowbray. There's one man I'm going to take into the trenches with me. It'd be Tony Mowbray. I think Burgess is
why it's hard. That's why it's hard. It's why it's really hard to say for definite that's what you want to do and that's the direction you want to go in. And that's why I'm not a manager or a chief executive, because you've got to be ruthless. You've got to park those personal attachments at the door. It's really difficult. Really difficult. Ryan says, how confident are you guys on keeping McKenna? 7, Matt?
I'm pretty confident at the moment. I don't know. I don't know where he goes in at. Do you know what I mean? Like, if say Postecoglou decided to throw his hat in after Tottenham winning a trophy and leave, I don't think he'd be in that conversation anymore. Whereupon I think he would have been last summer when we had sort of Brighton and Chelsea chasing him. I think his stock has dropped. You've only got to see some of the punditry on Match of the Day this season. I know people on here don't like that particularly, but they did kind of sort of say how shambolic Ipswich were in defence, and whether or not McKenna will be better with better players, I don't know. I think it's a hard sell in England to take a relegated manager and bring him back into the Premier League, and you've just been relegated in your first season as a Premier League manager. So I think he'll stay at Town. I hope he does, because I can't think of anyone to replace him.
Big Al. I hope McKenna goes. I hope McKenna goes, says Big Al Ref 1.
Well, I mean, listen, I've said this loads of times. It was only us and Spurs in the bottom half of the table pretty much that kept their managers. It's only because Ipswich are so tied to McKenna and that identity of a club that they didn't make the change. You don't really get that with Wolves, because they're a mainstay Premier League club and they will do whatever is necessary to retain that status. And they did, didn't they? They got rid of Gary O'Neill and brought in Vitor Pereira. Whereupon Ipswich is a bit more of a longer term thinking, I think. But we could never think of anyone to come in to replace him, could we? That was the thing.
No.
it's very well saying, "Oh, we'll get rid of a manager." Who would you bring in? I mean, people like Danny Roll. His team's letting a lot of goals at Sheffield Wednesday. He's tied to a ridiculous release clause at Sheffield Wednesday. No one's prepared to buy. I know Werder Bremen were looking at him in the Bundesliga, and I think they've said no thanks. He's like, 5, 6, 7 million.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. Blizzard, I can't see McKenna moving on. I know money talks, but he seems very much like he's invested in the town as a project. I think he signed after the championship, knowing it to be for the long term. Yeah, various opinions. Cheers for the question, Ryan. All right, we've got Ben Johnson. Keep all day long for me, Matt. Nice and easy. How about you?
Yeah, I would keep him, but looking at Ashton's player trading model, and he has been linked to someone, hasn't he? Wasn't it Fulham towards the end of the season or something? You bring someone in for nothing. He's only used to playing in the Premier League with West Ham, so he might not want to drop down. But I think if he does drop down, he'll be like a Leif Davis in that he'll be a level above, the quality he'll face week in, week out. I've liked Ben Johnson. I didn't really think much of him going forward, but he's kind of grew into that role a little bit. But if someone was to come in with a decent, couple, 2, 3, 4 million, I think we probably would take that.
I need more than that. I'd need more than that.
What would you be thinking?
More than 2, 3, 4 million. I mean,
really on a freebie.
Well, that just seems so low in modern football terms. Like,
safest score I've got him valued at 8 million. So yeah, maybe I'm lowballing him here. Yeah.
Does anyone go for 2, 3, 4 million these days? I mean, it feels like the whole footballing world just bypasses the first 5 million and goes, right, 7 million quid, lay it down on the table.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
2, 3
There's
million.
There's money to be made there, isn't there? If you were to let him go, having bought him in for a freebie, but I think he'll be integral to McKenna's plan in the Championship. I think he'll be a step above, a level above the opposition we see week in, week out. 100%.
Another player that was growing as the season was going on, and was really coming into his own. And I was really enjoying watching Ben Johnson play. And it's an easy decision for me, unless you've got silly money on the table for a player that you signed a year ago for a free transfer. Yeah, you aren't looking to move this player on. No way, no how. A bit like Greaves and O'Shea, you're not looking to move this player on it, and unless the silly money hits the table, it's nice and easy. Connor Townsend, 1 more year left on a deal, so it expires in 2026. I'm going to say I would like to see if we can find a way that we can free up that squad space, because I'm going to reveal in my transfer target show who I'd like to replace.
We've got Boniface, haven't you?
Got Boniface, yeah, but there's a certain left back we may have seen him just recently who's out of contract that I'm eyeing as a return.
We'll keep that one. Keep your powder dry on that one. I like Townsend, but again, he's falling into this category of he's nearing the end of his career. What was he, 32? 31, 32, something like that?
Yeah.
He was a mainstay at West Bromwich Albion, comes to the Premier League for us, where he knows he's going to be playing second fiddle to Leif Davis. And if Leif stays at town, then most likely Connor's going to be playing second fiddle again. So it's whether or not he wants to go and be a starter with someone else in the Championship. That's the conundrum for him. But I really like that goal 32. Against Bournemouth, didn't I? He was 32, right? So he's not got many. He hasn't got much left, has he, in the tank as far as his career goes. But when he came in, he was good. He was integral in that goal. My favourite goal of the season at Bournemouth, the Delap finish, the Cousteau long ball over, the Townsend run, ball into the lap. Fantastic goal. So I think he's done really well. He's got really good. I think people sleep on his set piece delivery. Mark Hudson's gone wrong. You see, should have utilised that more. I think he's good from set pieces. He's more defensively sound than Leaf, but not quite as good as going forward. As we've said before, you'd like to merge the two and have Connor Davis, wouldn't you? But I would keep him around as an experienced head, but I would not blame him to give him a free transfer and go and play for someone else in the Champ and be number one. Yeah,
very, very different to Leaf, isn't he? Really good defender.
Yeah,
not so good as Leaf going forward. Whereas Leaf is not as good a defender as Connor, but is much better.
He hasn't quite got the pace that Leaf has, but I think he has got a good delivery.
He's got good delivery, but he's not as much of a threat as Leif Davis. That's not a knock on Connor Townsend, because not many left backs. Notoriously, this is the position I once said, ladies and gentlemen, no left back ever got you promoted.
You did say that. We didn't know Leaf was going to be the assist king then, did we? You see,
and I think if you take Leaf, which is very much a rarity out of it, I still stand by that statement. No left back really ever gets promoted. Leaf is a rare player in what he can do when he crosses the halfway line. The difference is, is Connor as not as good, because he can't be, but is he a player that is almost a plug and place? If Leaf goes down, does he come in and you don't change how you play because you still got somebody? And the player I'm going to be talking about in a couple of weeks' time has been mentioned in the chat, and I just feel maybe as a free transfer, he may offer that a little bit more when we cross the halfway line. You can all guess who it is if you can't look at the chat.
He's going Wrexham, isn't he? He's going to be part of the Wrexham crew, I think.
Everyone's going to Wrexham. Everyone's. And if you can't see it, you should have been here live.
If you're in your 30s, Wrexham are going to sign you up. That's what it looks like at the moment.
This is it. Yeah, this is it. Although I saw the Wrexham chairman, CEO, whoever it may have been on, was it the Chris Moyle show? It may, or some radio show. And they were like saying, you've been linked with everybody. He's like, yeah. And I'm sure he said something on the lines of, we've been linked with lots of people, and some people I've never even heard of. So, he's a player. He needs a club. Wrexham.
Looks like, exactly. It looks like they're trying to put Dad's army together. It'd be interesting to see how that works out for him. If that does. People asking about Elkan Baggett here, Martin, in the comments.
Yeah, Elkan Baggett. Okay, yeah.
Don't know about Elkan. I mean, he's down the pecking order, isn't he? If we're talking left-sided centre-backs, of which Greaves is number 1 currently, Burgess is number 2, then Elkan's going to be sitting at 3, which suggests to me there's no future for Elkan at Town. And again, like Corey and Darbo, you always used to be on that left side, didn't he, as well? Never got an opportunity really at Ipswich other than Pizza Cup or wherever it was that we was in at the time. I don't see the opportunity that Elkan's get, which is a shame really, because he's got he's very marketable, isn't he? Like we've heard, like in Indonesia, he's a household name, and he's got the biggest social media following of any Ipswich Town player, and he's a household name over there. So that's great, isn't it, for the impact of the club globally or in that part of the world. But I don't see the future for him at the moment. And he's been on loan. Where was it? Blackpool, I think, this season.
Blackpool. And a very successful loan period, judging by the stats and
Steve Bruce,
overall rating. Sometimes you can say this player is going to have to leave the football club, and it isn't because of the player; it's because of the football club. And in this case, I feel it's that the club has progressed so far that we're in a different place now, and it isn't because Elkan Baggett isn't good enough or is a bad football player. It's because the club is so far from where we were that you have to be looking to bring better players in than what you've got. And right now, he isn't better than what we've got. And he's 22, a lot of years left in him. He could obviously go somewhere else, and within 3 or 4 years, be a player. Everyone's going, "Oh, you've got to sign Elkan Baggett." He's really progressed and developed, and is one of the top up and coming centre halves. But for right now, he isn't. He's 22. I feel the football club is in a different place.
You could have that conversation about Cameron Humphreys, which we'll do next week, I'm sure.
And Jack Taylor, who's got 1 more year on his deal.
I like FXT Blues' comment here. Wow, social media account. Let's keep him.
Look, commercially, because he is such a good player and a big player and a key player. Commercially, but you got to look as a football club. You've got to weigh up everything, right? And
just look at the impact Son has had at Tottenham in terms of Spurs' profile in South Korea, for example. But you've got to be in the Premier League ready for all that kind of stuff, really. Which is why Marcus Evans got Roy Keane in originally to be our manager, to become a Premier League club and raise the profile globally of Ipswich Town. I mean, the thinking was correct. Unfortunately, just couldn't deliver it.
No, that's right. All right, moving on. We've got up next Ben Godfrey, the loan. Nice and easy, this one. Buy. I guess
buy as in goodbye, or buy you like to purchase them.
Buy as in bye. Like I forgot he was even a player that was on. It was going to be listed on this website.
It was a very odd loan, that wasn't it? In that he comes in, plays 2 games in the Premier League, makes his debut against Bristol Rovers in the cup. He disappeared after that, didn't he? This was someone who was playing for England 3 or 4 years ago, and had garnered a £10 million move to Atalanta. Obviously one of the powerhouses in Italian football currently. Won a European trophy the season before last.
It just felt like there was no plan with Ben Godfrey. What was the plan?
No, it was odd. Yeah, it was a complete curveball as well, wasn't it?
What was the plan in regards to this loan? Do you know what I mean? Like, it just feels like there was no plan, and it kind of, was evident.
It made sense to me in that you never know where you stood with Twanzebe, did you? Because his injury record's so patchy. So it made sense for him to come in there, but for them to just come in and play Man City and Tottenham, well, no one covered themselves in glory again in either of those games in 1-11. He got hauled off at half time, didn't he, against Spurs? He was gone, wasn't he? He was just gone. But I thought he would be a good replacement for Twanzebe. I mean, Twanzebe's out of contract. I don't know. Odd one, and not really being addressed in my favourite local media.
Well, no. What's really strange is, as you're talking, I'm sitting here and thinking about back to that January window, and he was probably one of the signings I was more impressed with in that January window,
because it was a surprise. It was a surprise, and we knew he'd played for England and he'd been good at Everton and he'd gone to Italy. It hadn't quite worked out there for him. It felt like he could hit the ground running and come to Ipswich, but for whatever reason, 2 performances against, one is the Europa League winners, and one's got in the Champions League and finished third in the Premier League, and he got jetted out of there. It was odd, and there was no questions about it or anything. I find that really weird, but I thought he could be a Twanzebe backup replacement for the season coming.
I agree. It could be fitness, injuries, just could be selection. We don't know. But it was a very strange loan in the sense that we didn't really see much of him. All right, last but certainly not least, Axel Twanzebe. What are you saying in regards to Axel?
Well, Axel's a great defender, so I would keep him all day long. But again, what's plagued him throughout his career? Injuries, which is why he's no longer at Manchester United and playing for Ipswich. So there's still a question mark there. If we're going to be serious about trying to finish top 2 or winning the title and getting back to the Premier League, which presumably is the goal for everybody, even though you've not enjoyed the season, you want to be back there. Weird, isn't it? We've got to be getting more out of Axel Twanzebe than what we've been getting in the past, I think. He's been unlucky, hasn't he, like with the washing up incident and everything, but on the pitch he had a couple of hamstring injuries. Somehow they've got to find a solution for Twanzebe, but I think that's always going to be plaguing him. Injuries, it's always going to be there, which is why I think Godfrey is a good backup for him. What would you do? You keeping Axel? You got to, haven't you?
Oh, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. You're giving Axel a contract and you're begging him to sign it because he's a fantastic player. He's a great player to watch. He's a good character around the place, particularly if you play Hungry Hippos, right?
Good for morale. Board games.
Guinness World Record holder.
Yeah.
At Hungry Hippos is Axel. So it must be great in the games room. Look, jokes aside, great defender when he's fit. And you're right. You are right. You can't disagree with your points in terms of fitness. And as I always say, availability is the best ability. Yep. But the year we got promoted, couldn't question his availability. It was there every single week. Available, kept himself fit. Now this year he's had a couple of injuries. Yeah, all right, one of them was obviously the thumb. Yeah, I wasn't thinking about those injuries. He's had a couple of other injuries outside of that. But as I say, no brainer, nice and easy. It just becomes a question mark as to what is your insurance policy. Yeah. Now, Ben Godfrey, we guess, was the insurance policy that didn't quite work out in the Premier League.
Returning Harry Clark.
There's still a player in there, Ben Godfrey, but it's not a player I'd be pursuing. You've got Harry Clark, who's out of contract in a year's time. So, is he going to be insurance policy? And then you review the situation next summer. And if he's done well, you give him terms. If you don't, you let him say, you say thank you, but all the best. What are you doing with Harry Clark? Because he's had his own injury concerns, though. Let's not get away from that either. He's had his own injury concerns. So it isn't like you've got a player that's,
we didn't see the season out at Sheffield United, did he? He didn't play in that the playoff one or anything. I would agree with Dom Dino. I would probably move Clark on. I think might be able to get a nominal fee. He's played in the Championship outside of Ipswich, hasn't he? With Stoke when he was there on loan from Arsenal. So hopefully he could still play at a decent level. But I think that's probably one of the reasons why they loaned him out. Really, I'm not sure what the long-term future is for Harry Clark at Town.
I'm keeping him, Harry, just because he's got a year left. He's a good player when he's available.
So is he going into the Premier League review for promoted?
No, because he's got a year left in his deal, and I'm not looking to probably extend that. Unless he has an absolutely amazing year this year that makes me, absolutely, drive the nationwide cash truck up to his back door and say, take what you want because you've had an amazing year, he isn't going to be getting a new deal from me. But he's under contract. He's a good insurance policy. He very much is. You know what you're getting from Harry. It's passionate. It's full-blooded.
Blue and white to the core. Fair play to him.
But you know what you're getting. And if you've got Axel who goes down for a week or a couple of weeks or suspended, you haven't got to worry about what's coming in. Harry's very much, you know what you're getting. Or I do anyway. I don't know if anybody else feels that way.
Certainly their experience in the game is polar opposites, isn't it? Harry Clark has obviously went to Arsenal but floated around the Championship and had a few appearances for the Premier League, and Axel's captain Manchester United. So it's sort of polar opposites really, aren't they, in their career? And then they found themselves at the same place. But I get that logic on Clark. I do get that. I don't know. I just would prefer something better maybe.
No, I agree. And also, you could cash in this year and get something instead of nothing next summer. It's just when you've already got a summer that's going to be such a pivotal summer, not only because you want to get back to the Premier League, but because you've got so many players that are question marks about their future, whether they're correct question marks or not. There's going to be a lot of media speculation, a lot of links, both in and out of the football club. The more ever presence you've got, the better, right? So while you've got Amari, is he going? Isn't he going? Delap, is he going? Is he not going? Clark to Sunderland, not to Sunderland. Broadhead, is he going to be sticking around? All these different question marks. Chapley's got a year left on his deal. We'll get to that next week. But is he going? Is he not going? With all these different noises, Matt, and all these different players being linked in. I mean, before we went live today, we're talking about a player we've been linked with, and we obviously not mentioned it today because we've not checked it out or since I've read more into it. The more ever presence you've got, kind of feels like the better for me. Like you've got that core of players that are going to be here next year, don't have that noise around them, so they're definitely going to be here. And I don't know, just it's for me, I don't know, steady Eddie for me. Like just keep what you can.
We seem to be, just off the top of my head, we seem to be keeping the majority of our defence here. That wasn't very good in the Premier League, but hopefully they can galvanise that experience to use as a foundation to get us promoted again.
Well, I'll tell you why, because next week is midfielders and strikers, and that's where I really come to life. And we truly have why we're keeping all the defenders, because we're blaming it all on, well, we'll save that for next week. But thank you for watching. Don't forget Stowmarket Osteopaths. Don't live life in pain. Give Freddie a call. 01449 613 633. That's Stowmarket Osteopath. Quality care in Suffolk. Freddie's the governor there. Give him a call and he'll look after you for osteopathic physiotherapy. 01449 613 633. But until next week, this man here is Matthew Phillips. Tomorrow is your Champions League final. Enjoy. Town aren't in it, obviously. Don't know why I mentioned it. Just came to my mind. But thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. And we'll catch you all next week. Take care. God bless.